I thought there would be a lot of interest if Wendy was willing to come forward to the Historical Society and share a little bit. We know it's a huge collection of photos that she and Alasdair took over the years. And some of us have seen the photos in different situations. Wendy and Alasdair have been very generous in donating to raffles and silent auctions, and their cards were for sale around town. But Wendy can help me with the dates, but in the 70s, they started taking pictures in Lakefield. And right up until Alasdair had his stroke in February of '99, and right up until that time, they basically captured Lakefield, a point in time in Lakefield. And their photos are wonderful, and they're often a little bit of architecture, a piece of a building. Sometimes there are pictures that are of buildings, scenes that the buildings aren't there anymore. The good example is the picture of the houses where Tim Hortons is now, the houses that used to be there. And so I don't think Wendy had kind of thought about the collection as a valuable historical document, but it really is to this community. So I'm going to let Wendy talk more about how they took photos over time, and we've tried to capture in this evening, and I hope we can get this one going, but certainly Wendy's got slides first to show. Not very many. Do them slowly, Wendy. And if we can't do the technology, then we'll have to just admire the slides that are here, but I apologize if we can't make this projector work with this computer. It did work earlier. I'll turn it over to you, Wendy.
I'm pleased to be here, and I sincerely hope that Mary gets this working. First of all, I do want to say how pleased Alasdair is that we're doing this tonight. He was really sorry, of course, that he can't be here, but he's excited that the pictures are going to be shared. Mary's a great promoter. She's organized. So tonight so I said to Mary, no, I can't do a presentation. There's no way I can do a presentation. So Alasdair did organize in the 90s when he was actively selling cards, and he got so excited about taking pictures that people liked. So he organized his negatives quite well, and so I was able fairly easily, they're all, there are pictures of our family and trips and the works in these negatives, but I was relatively easily able to coordinate those prints that he did in the 90s. And Mary has scanned those, and that would be the bulk of the evening, so hopefully she's going to get this working. And in addition, I haven't gone through the whole collection, and Mary's making it sound so important that I'm scared to do it, but anyway, I have just pulled a sampling of slides. So the prints which have been scanned are from the 90s. And this very small selection is very miscellaneous, but starts in 1974. I haven't used the projector for so long I forgot about the remote, so I'll try to speak and push the button and keep you on track.
You want some lights on?
I think most of them should go off, and I hope I can read this, but if not, I expect most of these photos are and many of you will remember things about me that I don't even know. So if you have any input to add, Sheila is trying to keep track of any information that comes up. So speak up if you have something to add about the pieces. Alasdair, if you know him, he used to sometimes it seemed that the camera was carted off to school and he walked to school. If you were a member of the family, you didn't always church. He really enjoyed. He also used to take pictures of his students and share them with the students. Loved it. All sorts of photos. Anyway, here's a sample. I imagine.
You want the other one out?
I think we'd be better to do with, for me to do without my notes and to have better light for the pictures. So this one amuses me. I still don't know why we've got a Toronto streetcar in Lakefield. This is 1986. I don't remember how long it was there or when it disappeared. But that was the greeting coming into the village in 1986.
Can I say, Wendy, I think if anybody has a little bit of history that they want to share as we go along about, I can't remember whose idea it was to bring this streetcar in. If anybody remembers, let us know, because Sheila keeps notes as we go along.
Bill Wellman?
Could have been.
Mary, I remember one funny story about that streetcar. People were wondering what to do with it. And someone suggested that they put it up on top of
1986.
Yes, you'll notice now that garden, the Horticultural Society maintains it, that it has bushes in it and shrubs, and it's, even the signage on Hamlin's changes, so every picture that you look at, you'll notice there are changes.
So again, the buildings haven't changed, but the landscaping has changed since 1986. For those who are very new to Lakefield, I think you still know that that's the Lake Square. The next picture was taken in 1990, just before we knew that Tim Hortons was coming. I don't know who lived here. Does anybody know?
Len would know here.
Muriel Ray.
Muriel Ray, that's
Yeah,
right.
okay. Same location.
Now, does anyone know, there were 3 houses along there, where Tim Hortons and Kango and Pizza Hut are. Len, do you know who lived in those other houses?
Matthews lived in that.
Just
particular
actually
house.
one.
Don Matthews, he was a Reba Hadlock in later years.
In the middle house?
Yeah, this house, the one we're looking at,
The red one?
yeah,
Okay, and the blue one?
not so sure.
Chatton's used to live there. Chatton, their name was? I forget the.
Alasdair took several of Reading Manor over a period of time. These were taken in 1986 when the Blakes very kindly opened their home for the Lakefield Library house tour. Hordes of people visited. There was a big canopy on the front yard and music.
Do you want to talk, Wendy, about the shingles, what Alasdair did?
Oh, Alasdair was interested in everything. When the house was reshingled, was that when did you have that done, Gord?
Yes, yes, we did the write-up in the Herald Smith for that.
Alasdair was all fascinated about the process and spent as much time up on the roof, I think, as the shinglers, and you know, had absolute wonderful time out of it, and got paid for the article he wrote about it in Herald Smith. Some detail of Reading Manor. I've just included one interior shot, Gord. I don't know whether you want people to see the rest. There are lots more.
I wonder if we could go back one. Gord, did you want to speak to who used to own the house before you and Donna, the Cherries, and the bit of history on that house?
The house got a lot of history. It goes back to being built by Colonel Strickland for his son Robert, as I recall. When I was going to school, the Dubs owned the house, and they had for many years. Matter of fact, we lived next door to it then, which was a red brick house that just recently sold on that North Queen Street area.
And they rented the upstairs, do you remember, Gordon? There were various people that
Various
came
people,
out to the
that's
road
right.
and.
Rick Wilford is one that used to live in the upstairs, I know that. You would probably have a good deal of knowledge on it, probably even more so than I have.
Well, I used to spend a lot of time in that house because I was just between Denise and Leanna in age. successful ranch that was for 100 rooms that were living in.
I see, well,
But they lived in the downstairs. And it was a fascinating place, a great place for children to grow up in. You know, you
yes, it
could-
was,
in the barn, and they had the property right down to the water, so
yes.
you could play right down the river.
Scott Campbell and his wife are the current owners, and the property was kept intact. So they have the fields down behind that as they go down through the water. It's a great place, as Kay says, to raise kids, great spot to live and entertain and fix up, as I might call it. We had quite a bit of that to do with the offset. I think that's probably as much
Thanks.
as I should.
I backed up here. Coming down Strickland Street, we moved to Lakefield in 1969-70, and this was our first view of the house we subsequently bought, coming down the hill. A wonderful street. These two houses, the one on the left was owned by the Sloanes, and the one on the right was built for, he was known as Judge Langley. And Mrs. Langley lived in it until she died. And the Sloanes bought the house from her and rented it, and we bought it after that from the Sloanes. So this is the house that was built at the request of Judge Langley. He wanted a house that could be built for under $1,000. It was built at the turn of the century. It wasn't there in 1900. It was there by 1905. I'm not sure of the exact date that it was built. Clapboard. It's really tall. It was just attic at the top. We converted that to living space. It did have a cement basement, but it was pretty wet. I had a cistern, so all the taps, all the original taps were 3 sets, hot, cold, and cistern. And it had a summer kitchen on the back. This was taken at the time we had the extension put out. We tried not to ruin the front of the house, but we did. You can see the upper extension. Alasdair took that to show the decorative shingle siding that was used. I just took a few interior shots. We probably have more, but I don't know where they are. Nice staircase. The wood was BC fir. Nice deep. My vocabulary is gone. Baseboard, thank you. And a fireplace. We actually used the front room, which was probably a living room. We used it as a dining room. Ruth Sloane used to sit with the elderly Mrs. Langley, and she told me that those 2 archways were completely covered with heavy, heavy velvet drapes, green on one side and orange on the other. And I imagine the house was probably not furnace heated all along. There was a fireplace there. The kitchen would have had a wood stove. We had evidence of the stovepipe holes up through the bedroom above. Ruth Sloane used the curtains to make jobbers for her children, as I recall. The kitchen was kind of neat and very friendly. It had 5 doors in it, 4 of them in corners, and that wall out onto the porch had 3 doors. So it was really hard to put furniture in, but quite a lovely room. This is what sold me on the house. It's the butler's. The Langleys called it the butler's pantry. And you went into the pantry from the kitchen and did a U-turn to go into the dining room. It was totally inconvenient to use. When you opened the door, you had to back all the way across the room. And every time I complained about it, Alasdair would say, well, I can build you a new one. And of course, there was no way. The bottom has the bins. They would have been for flour. Those facing us are bins. And the summer kitchen we converted to Alasdair's workshop. I don't think the floor has changed any, just painted boards. the stove we were using came out of the mill at Coburg. In Alasdair's workshop, many things happened. He was quite a woodworker. He was doing repairs on the storm windows here. These were quite nice casement windows in the dining room of the house. We did some repairs and had to replace baseboard. We found one screen door under the shed. Couldn't find a door that it fit. So, Alasdair made copies of it, it was 3 birthday gifts for me, and sold that one to the Wallace. So there's one of the reproduction doors on the house still. 1981 Victoria Days. In those days, the school got quite involved, and the children did. They had recipes and dressed up. That's Mrs. Rennie on the left and Mrs. Clancy on the right. Same day. I don't remember who the officials were. Does anyone recognize principal?
I wonder if it was Larry Axel.
I think it was Larry Axel.
The children used to be, they were dressed up and they would march downtown to Cenotaph Park, and the official opening of Victoria Days would happen on the Friday usually.
Kate Smith was a great Queen Victoria. This was taken just before we lost our Lakefield police force. I just included the one, but I think Alasdair took quite a few for the village.
Yes. He actually was commissioned to take pictures of the police service before it ceased to exist. And January 1, 1999, it amalgamated the Lakefield Police Service amalgamated with the Peterborough Police Service and became the Peterborough Lakefield Police Service. But that was our chief at the time, Jeff Pritchard, and he became an inspector with the new service, and not too long afterwards had Lou Gehrig's, is it Lou Gehrig's disease? Yeah, and he passed away a few years ago. So it's wonderful that Alasdair took these pictures, and some of them were of the vehicles, and so it's a point in time that had he not done that, we would have lost that history.
I hope the police service has most of them, because I don't. Alasdair's quite interested. The year here, late 90s, I'm not sure, maybe someone here knows when the Juniper Island Pavilion was repaired?
Yeah, in 96, I think it was originally built in 1911, and that's when there were wharfs in there, but the Property Association was 100 years old in 1996. And I should remember that from being executive at that time as well, thinking about it. But I'm pretty sure that's.
Tim Sharon was involved. Did he supply the wood?
He, for this new siding on the pavilion he did. I can't remember the dates too well, but both the pagoda and the pavilion were restored in that period. Well, that's the only remaining Trenton Canal pagoda that's still on water.
Is
In the whole system.
Alasdair was quite interested. He knew Tim well, and he knew the wood miser. He probably sold to Tim. So I just included 4 pictures. There are others. That shows some of the reasons it needed to be repaired.
And there are now big frame photographs, old Roy Studio photographs, that are blown up and plasticized, given the history of steamers coming out. And they survived quite well. They've been up there about 10 years now.
I imagine most of you would know, but in case anyone's new to the village, the twin of that pavilion is what we have down in Isabel Morris Park, the original structure that was actually located where the marina is, and it was a waiting location to get on the steamer to go up to Juniper Island, and vice versa, they would wait for Juniper Island to come back down, right, Kay? So they're exactly the same dimensions, I believe, and the design.
That's the support structure for the pavilion. And I think we're getting to Walter Walker, 1974. So we'd only been in the village a few years and Alasdair found Walter.
Walter's gonna have his 100th birthday on November the 3rd, and there's a big party at the Canoe Museum if folks are interested in the afternoon.
So that's also 1974. I don't know if I've got it in reverse. He's ambidextrous, I'm sure, from looking at the pictures. So I never knew for sure which way it is. If anyone knows, let me know. And then that was, I think, 77 when Prince Andrew was here, and one of his canoes was presented to Prince Andrew.
That canoe is back in the Canoe Museum now. Prince Andrew brought it back as part of the royal collection.
And these were taken in 1980. There are lots more, but that's my last slide.
Well, I wonder if we want to get coffee, and I'll try to get this, I think we're a little closer to having this ready to roll. So maybe we can do that, Sandy? Okay.
I'll just mention, it's Alasdair's stroke, and I have found it difficult to do as cards, but I could have prints made. So if anyone is interested in having it, there are a few here, some that Alasdair had plaque mounted and some that he had shrink wrapped. They're for sale if you're interested. And I do have the album with a sample print. So if you really are interested, there's a little notebook back there, just let me know and we can sort of, and I have the album you could go through. So anyway, enjoy your coffee and we'll pray.
And while you're getting your coffee, you speak to these photos as well, but
I told Mary I wasn't going to do a presentation.
no. There's a photo of the municipal office, and you can see the sign, Village of Lakefield. And I apologize that these are not as big and easy for you to see, but the fellow on the bench with the white shirt is Lane Vance when he was our clerk treasurer. This was taken, I'm not sure that it was during the last term of council, from 98 to 2000, but it might have been the term before.
Let me get the album if you really.
Well, I'm just saying this is what I would call the last picture of our municipal staff in front of the village office. So it's an historical picture.
But his hair wasn't white there, Mary.
No. There's another view of Memorial Hall. And again, staff, and this is Olivia, Rob Lamar's daughter, and I think she's into high school now, so, well into high school, so that was quite a few years ago. That sign, that sign is gone now. Actually, it was definitely mid-90s, I would think, because the green signs went up, Village of Lakefield on the front. And again, these cards, Wendy had these for sale around town in Alasdair. Now that's a nice streetscape picture, and I don't know who the person on the bench is, but as we go through this, we'll see that some of the storefronts have changed.
That's May 98.
Okay. And famous landmark in Lakefield, the cupola. It's in dire need of a paint job. If you notice right now, we're painting everything but the cupola. It's going to need some extra work to decide exactly what we do to prevent future leaking. The rain is getting down in. We've got some leaking into the ceiling, so it's more than just a paint job that's going to be needed. So we're working on that as the next job for maintenance. Now, there's a beautiful scene of the old cement factory and the smokestack. with the dam, with the water up above, below the dam in the front, and the old structures that the hydro lines used to run across to the cement factory. Now, if anyone wants to add here any comments, but as you can see, Alasdair and Wendy were artists in their photo taking.
99.9% of these photographs are Alasdair's.
Well, we'll say he was quite an artist as he took photos. Again, this is the marina before the new docks, where you'll notice now we can accommodate quite a few more boats. The docks actually go out as finger docks now. So this is back in the days when the marina was open probably in '93. So
98.
that's a '98 photo.
I didn't put it down wrong. It's May 98.
One thing in this picture that isn't there now, those tall pine trees are gone, correct? Am I correct there, that we're on the Toth property next door? So they were,
This winter.
pardon?
Gone this, taken this winter.
It might be a couple of years ago now even, Michael, I think. Another nice photo of Memorial Hall. The trees out front are a little bigger that were planted, and the tree on the side is much bigger. That's a beautiful photo. And those trees are both gone now. They were healthy trees for quite a while, but ended up being removed because I guess we got into a drought and they just didn't survive, but it's a great angle. And I think that was back in the days when the clock still worked. And at some point, 95, it's some of you, where's Lynn? Where'd Lynn go?
Right here.
Okay, Lynn, Newt Young used to come and repair the clock, didn't he?
Yep.
I think so.
And I think even John Atkinson, one of our counselors, used to climb up in there to help him. But Sherry and I, that's not quite in our job description, we figure. So Sherry Sennis is here, one of our counselors, our Smith Ward counselor. Now, Wendy, you need to talk about this, how this photo was taken.
He's the young man who went to the school and he does restorations. And he did the restoration on the clock tower, or the building itself. And there was scaffolding all around it. So Alasdair phoned him, I can't remember his name. Is it Eagle Restoration?
Yeah, that's the name of the company.
But I can't remember the young man's name. Alasdair would remember, I'm sure. There was scaffolding all around it. Alasdair, very excited, he said, "Oh, I'm going to go up there and take pictures." And he phoned and said who he was and said he wanted to go up and take pictures and was told, "Absolutely not. Flat no, there's no way. Insurance, there's not a chance." End of conversation. And about 5 minutes later, the phone rang. "Alasdair Wallace, the teacher? Of course you can come over."
Collins was his name.
Thank you. Thank you.
And the thing I find interesting about this picture is at some point in the future, if we ever could take another picture from that view, it would be interesting to see how the tree canopy would have changed, because we don't have aerial views of the village, and we know that we're losing so many of the old maples. They sure look great there, but it'd be very interesting to see whether we have that many trees now. Again, an artistic shot of the cement silos makes them look better than they really are, doesn't it? That must be taken from down where the cement factory office was on
That would
Nichols
be my
Street.
guess. We've heard stories just in the last couple of years from my girls of their escapades climbing that building.
Yeah. Now, this is a famous shot, and there is this picture in the Marshland Center up over the door, and I'm sure that Alasdair donated that when we opened, just not too long after the Marshland Center was opened, because anybody who was around Lakefield in those days would remember the swans that stayed all winter long. Now, I don't know that the swans are there anymore,
No,
does
they're
anyone?
not. There
They're
was
not.
one last year, but not two.
Yeah,
But I haven't seen it this year.
yeah,
That was close to May '97.
yeah. And they were around for years, weren't they?
Between here and Young's Pond.
Oh, really? And there's a shot, and that's the way the shoreline was, just to the west of King Street. And that was before the trail went in, so that's
97.
changed. And that's in the campground. Now this lady, Mrs. Minchell, still lives on Stewart Drive. And anybody back in the 80s and 90s remembers seeing her walking with that jacket on. It says Ontario on the back. Doesn't Mr. Minchell have one too?
Yes.
He used to wear? Yeah. So, that really brings back memories. Those of us who remember seeing her walking so much. I don't know the story. Were they on a team, an Ontario team at some point in their lives, or does anybody know?
I don't think so. He taught,
He was
school,
certainly
high
a
school.
compulsive walker and did not only the village, but also right down highway, what used to be Highway 134, and then back along the block road.
Right?
Well, we stopped to see if she was okay a long way up 507.
Oh my goodness.
She's out to keep up her temperature and some
Now,
stuff.
Alasdair took some beautiful pictures of this church and some other churches in the village, but from different angles. St. John's from Queen Street, and this one is taken with the moon in the background,
And Venus.
and Venus, taken from Regent Street out here. And of course, there's some nice landscaping out on the corner now.
And Alasdair would have planned that photograph for months, looking for the moon and Venus, and also the time of day, to get the light right. There's a certain time of day to take that.
And to make sure it was choir practice evening, so the lights would be on.
You must have skipped choir then.
There's another beautiful shot. The stained glass windows. And again, it's that photographer's eye, isn't it, to know what. Now there's Christ Church, and it looks like the springtime, dandelions on the lawn there. And things have changed in front of Christ Church too. There's the new sign. Now, this is Peter Bishop, who was the minister here, who's deceased now, doing a service in Christ Church. And this is Bill Twist in the blue shirt, who is deceased now. I recognize the backs of a number of the people in the crowd.
Is that Dorothy Schuss?
Yeah, definitely, definitely. And that was before Christ Church was renovated, I think, because they repainted, they repaired. I believe it must have been before the
I
renovations.
don't have the date
Does
for that one.
anybody know? And there used to be vines right up the side, and they had to take them down, I believe, because it was hard on the stone, but they were really something in the fall when they turned red. Now that's the Presbyterian Church, St. Andrew's. And that's one of those days when that wet snow has fallen, and I'm presuming, Wendy, from the pictures that I saw, there's another one that was taken that day. And the color of the sky is just,
It's a weird set of colors. They don't translate totally in that, but
yeah.
it's most unusual color.
And if you notice this picture, the back, the little shed room on the back there, storage area, that's gone, and now there's an addition on the back which makes, and it's very attractive, it really does fit in nicely to the back of the church, but it makes it accessible, there's a lift so that people can get out into the church. So there's an example again of how things change, how buildings change. That's the canal, right down beside. A lot of people really never take the time to look down into the canal and enjoy the beauty of it. It's certainly getting quite grown over on the sides now. Okay, I need some help. This is on Caroline Street at the corner of Catherine, and I don't know the history of this house. I think was Annie and Richard Johnson, did they own it when this was taken?
When this was taken.
Whose house would that have been?
Souls lived there in the 40s, 50s, 60s.
That's right.
It's a beautiful house. It still has the original windows on the little porch, and they've really kept it nice.
I think I heard that a garden went over there.
Garbets?
Is it the entry to the Anglican cemetery? Is it the entry to the Anglican cemetery?
No, this is up at Caroline and Catherine, in the corner of Caroline and Catherine Street.
The other side of the bridge is maybe.
No, that was.
Almost across from the Orange Hall.
That's right.
There's Wendy and Alasdair's house again. And there's been some work done on the front. The landscaping has changed at the front.
I don't have any pictures of when we first bought it. There were enormous poplar trees, enormous, 8 feet across.
Where were they?
When they started dropping branches between the house and the garage and the car, we had to do something about it.
And when you were talking about Judge Langley, he was called the circuit judge, and I don't know.
Well, that's what we were told. I didn't read anything about him. Michael Townsend suggested that he was actually a magistrate. We'd heard he was a circuit judge, and I don't know.
He was also nicknamed 30-day Langley because that was the rumor, the story that whatever charge he laid was for 30 days.
Okay.
His usual sentence was 30 days or $30.
There's a picture of Raiden Manor, and that may be the same as the slide, I'm not sure, but it's pretty close.
It may be.
Now, there's a structure that doesn't exist anymore, and for anyone who's new to town, I don't know whether there's anybody who's new to town in the audience.
Somebody just moved in June.
Did you ever see that building right over here? So was located next to where the Country Style Donuts, which is closed now. There's a big empty lot there at the corner of Concession and Queen. And beautiful colors, really. Lots of cats used to wander around.
The railroad,
Pigeons.
railroad track was straight along the back side of it.
That's right, yeah. And there's another shot. The trucks used to come up the side there and fill up, I guess.
Our team used to go down on this side, we would unload.
Is that right?
Then we'd take the horses down to the Annie Church stable, put them in there.
Yeah,
We'd have coffee, and then we'd reverse the step.
yeah. So isn't it wonderful that Alasdair took these photos, because
Well, when we first moved here in '69, there's a mystique about the co-op, and it really represents the rural. And we were told, oh, it's coming down any day now. It lasted longer than anyone thought.
yeah, it must have been 99 or what year, what was in the 2000s? Anyway, okay, it was more now. Now there's another aerial shot from up on the scaffolding. There's the IGA board and
I've got some aerial shots of the square that have been done by planes.
is that right?
Yeah, I'm not sure where I put my fingers on them, but I know I have.
Yeah,
I do have some.
it'd be great if we could get copies for the